Hey guys, Scott from Veteran Entrepreneur Podcast, owner of Mill Gear. Today we're going to be talking a little bit about this book right here, How to Win Friends and Influence People. The three things we're going to talk about today are the fundamental techniques in handling people. Principle number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Principle number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. So when we're talking about principle number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain, I highlighted a brief little excerpt from the book. 99 times out of 100, people don't criticize themselves for anything, no matter how wrong it'll be. So when dealing with other people, it's important to think about that, right? If your ego is so big that you can't admit that you're wrong, or that you've created some sort of issue at the behest of your decision, people aren't going to trust you. You're going to lose influence over them, and vice versa. If you're working with another group of people or another individual who also doesn't want to admit that they're wrong or that they made a mistake, they're going to lose their influence on you, and you're not going to trust them as much. Fundamental number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. So I went through and pulled another excerpt from the book from Charles Schwab. The greatest asset I possess and the way to develop the best that is in a person is by appreciation and encouragement. There is nothing else that so kills the ambitions of a person as criticisms from superiors. I never criticize anyone. I believe in giving a person incentive to work. So I'm anxious to praise, but loath to find fault. I feel like anything, I am hearty in my approbation and lavish in my praise. So this one's sort of a difficult one to navigate because a lot of us are so used to giving criticisms and we're not really used to praising people when they do things well, or we just expect them to do well. When they do well, we don't really take note of it and we don't highlight it and let them know that we basically see what they're doing and we appreciate what they're doing. So this is really important, especially when you're trying to motivate others, and whether it's in business, personal relationships, family relationships, whatever it is. Take the time to show appreciation, give praise, and make sure it's genuine. No one wants to hear somebody praise them for something that they know they didn't do that great a job at or whatever. Make sure it's honest, make sure it's sincere, and see how much that works for you. So how many of you have worked for a boss who's never taken note of some of the things that you've done that are really, really good? And you always seem to get criticized for the things that you mess up and fail at or don't do to standard. If you were recognized more often on some of the things, maybe that were smaller or even if they're bigger, if you were recognized for those things and someone took notice and actually told you and appreciated that and showed their appreciation, how much more would that motivate you to work and perform better? And that would create an environment where that would spread maybe to other coworkers or other executives or other teammates, right? And then you have an atmosphere of positive energy where people are really taking notice of what everybody else is doing and showing them that gratitude and that appreciation for what they're doing instead of just harping on all the bad things, right? That's a real confidence killer. It's something that's not going to foster a positive environment for others to operate in as well as yourself. So I think the second fundamental principle of giving sincere appreciation is something that's definitely overlooked and not really valued in the workplace, whether it's in the military, outside the military, in business, in a relationship, or even in family relationships. This is the kind of thing that's going to help you gain influence with whomever you're working with, right? If you're showing them appreciation, they're going to look to you, right? Everyone has that need and that desire to be wanted and to be appreciated. And so when you fulfill that need, you gain loyalty, right? You gain influence. So instead of criticizing somebody all the time or only criticizing people, even though they may be doing a good job elsewhere, take the time and appreciate them and show your gratitude to them and see how it works out for you. I'd love for you guys to implement this on a daily basis, even on a small scale, just to try to get used to the idea of showing this gratitude and appreciation. I know for me, since I started the book a couple weeks ago, I've been slowly trying to implement it, and it has actually helped. It's hard to constantly do because you want to keep reverting back to that default setting of criticizing and always finding fault in something, but try to slowly start changing the tide by taking extra notice of what people are doing well, and then critique them and compliment them and show gratitude and appreciation. The third fundamental principle in handling people is arouse in the other person an eager want. An eager want. So I've taken a little excerpt from the book. Every act you have ever performed since the day you were born was performed because you wanted something. So if you're trying to influence other people and you want them to do something else, you can't force them, right? It never works. I mean, you could impose your will on somebody and make them do it, but the moment that you turn your back to them, they're not going to have the desire, the need, or the want to go ahead and keep performing whatever it is that you've imposed your will on them to perform. So the idea here is basically to incite a desire within the person to do what it is that you want them to do, right? And this kind of goes back to, leading people and leadership, right? And there's actually another excerpt here at the end of the book. When we have a brilliant idea, instead of making others think it is ours, why not let them cook and stir the idea themselves? They will then regard it as their own. They will like it and maybe eat a couple of helpings of it. Remember, first arouse in the other person an eager want. He who can do this has the whole world with him. He who cannot walks a long, lonely way. So I think that's pretty powerful, and that's something, if any of you out there listen to Jocko Willink, he talks about this a lot as well, is when you're leading somebody, you want to make sure that, especially if it's up the chain of command, or even down the chain of command, doesn't really matter, but you want to almost give the idea to the person that you're trying to influence and let them think it's theirs and let them take ownership of it, and therefore you don't have to bruise their ego by saying, hey, your idea is bad, mine's better, let's do mine, right? You can sort of give them the idea, launch it up almost like a softball. They can take the big swing, they hit the home run, they get all the credit, you sit in the back, you got the mission accomplished, he took the credit, no big deal because your ego's in check. Yeah, they might be inflated a little bit, but they feel like they're part of the team, and ultimately the mission got accomplished in probably the most advantageous way. In a nutshell, these are the fundamental techniques in handling people. Principle number 1, don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Principle number 2, give honest and sincere appreciation. Principle number 3, arouse in the other person an eager want. That about wraps it up, guys. I hope you guys picked this book up. It's a really great book. I'm only a quarter of the way done, and I've really learned a lot. I'm really trying to approach things in a much different way just from having read a quarter of the book. All right, well, I've learned more than a quarter. So again, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Definitely pick it up, give it a read. It's been around since, I think it was written in the 1920s or 1930s. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Stay motivated.